Hello everyone, welcome back to Just Being Dale. I'm Dale. Today I'm going to do a reaction video to the most embarrassingly ways to die. Alright, let's go.
People seem to do the dumbest things without thinking about it. Imagine if you tried to do something so ridiculous, some prank or stunt, that you didn't know could cost you your life. Well, that's what a lot of these people you're about to meet did. So, what do you think are the dumbest ways people have died? Stay tuned, because you're about to find out. One of the first lessons the Darwin Awards have taught us is to never trust a bulletproof charm. And unfortunately, 26-year-old Nigerian healer Chinaka Asoizue learned this the hard way in 2018 when he unintentionally shot himself after his charms did not work. The story goes that a separate man by the name of Chukwuchi Iyezi was in the process of buying bulletproof charms from Chinaka, but was skeptical of whether or not they would work. Therefore, to prove his client wrong, Chinaka put the charms around his own neck and instructed Iyezi to shoot him with a gun. When the charms inevitably did not work, Chinaka suffered a major puncture wound and went on to succumb to his injuries in the hospital. Yet what's interesting about these bogus bulletproof charms is that they are rather common in parts of Nigeria. After all, an article by the major Nigerian newspaper, Punch, found that a large sample size of police officers actually believe that magical amulets offer better protection against shot wounds than bulletproof vests.
That's like believing in Harry Potter.
And stories like Chinaka's are unfortunately somewhat common in this region of the world. Regardless, we just hope that this superstition gets stamped out sooner rather than later.
People believe anything.
A spiritual magician in Malaysia by the name of Mr. Limba got himself into a steamy situation. More popularly known as Black Dog, he was a 68-year-old spiritual guru who decided that he would perform a human steaming in order to, quote, cleanse body and soul. Finding a massive stainless steel streamer after filling it with rice, sweet corn, and vegetarian buns, Black Dog himself
stepped black bread.
And after having closed the lid on top of him, a fire was lit beneath him. Unsurprisingly, things went horribly wrong. As 30 minutes later, Black Dog began to bang frantically on the walls of the steamer. When the lid was finally lifted, he was found unconscious within it, and was reported not only scorched with second-degree burns, but was also suffering a heart attack. It goes without saying that he ended up succumbing to his wounds. Our next one is for all of you aspiring race car drivers. Generally speaking, most would agree that a race car requires an engine, transmission, exhaust system, and fuel tank, among other things. However, two men in Washington state had a different idea when they tried to make a barrel car. In essence, the pair of mechanical experts took a 55-gallon barrel, filled it with 4 gallons of methanol, and expected that after lighting a hole in the barrel, it would skid across the parking lot like a rocket, shooting out a tail of flames from the back. Of course, rather than getting a
5,
new race
4,
car,
3, 2, 1,
was
take off!
Causing both of them to go to the hospital. One of the men later succumbed to his wounds. On our end, we just hope the surviving man learned an important lesson about internal combustion.
Oh my goodness, that got to be cartoonish.
For those of you who are into home security, this story is a warning for all of you. In November of 2019, 65-year-old Ronald Sear of Van Buren, Massachusetts, was trying to protect his family's jewelry. Thinking that a do-it-yourself approach would be best, he outfitted his property with an assortment of homemade booby traps, with many of them being deadly. One in particular was made especially gruesome. In essence, what it did was cause a handgun trigger to pull and shoot an intruder if they opened a certain door. However, it ended up being Sear's undoing when he opened said door and the trap deployed on himself.
How could you forget about your own booby traps, especially if they that deadly? Come on now.
Moving across the pond to the city of Odisha, India, we have a man who was unbearably stupid. You see, Prabhupada was driving back home from a wedding when he pulled over to relieve himself in the woods. However, once he got out, he noticed that an injured bear was lying just a short distance away. although common sense would dictate either calling a forest ranger or, at the very least, running back to your
bears
car.
are,
Katara
man.
had other plans. Rather than leave the bear alone, he decided to approach it and take a selfie with the injured animal. And despite his family warning Katara against it, he went ahead with his selfie-taking mission, but soon found one major hitch in his plan. The bear wasn't injured. Apparently, being perfectly healthy, the bear didn't appreciate Katara's efforts and pounced on him, reportedly disposing of him on the spot. And although a passing stray dog tried to help Katara, even the brave little pup's efforts were not enough
To be the most embarrassingly and dumbest ways to die. I'm sorry. I don't mean to poke fun, but how big as a bear is, even if he was injured, he still would come after you. That's just dumb. Just saying.
It turns out that stupidity occurs not just on land, but in the air as well. Cue in the legendary Larry Walters. An aspiring pilot from Los Angeles, California, he felt that his job as a truck driver never exactly suited him. After all, he had always wanted to make a living flying high in the skies. But when he applied to the Air Force as a young man, he was turned away due to his poor vision.
Aww.
As a result of this rejection, and after years of flightlessness, in 1982, Walters decided to take matters into his own hands. Hatching the scheme while relaxing on a lawn chair in his backyard, he began to design plans to make said lawn chair airborne. Dubbing his design the Inspiration 1, he strapped 45 large helium weather balloons to his chair, expecting that they would allow him to float about 30 feet above his neighborhood. To accompany him on the journey, he not only brought some Miller Lite beers and sandwiches to keep him satiated, but also a pellet gun, with the idea being that when he wanted to descend, he would just pop a few of the balloons and make a safe landing. Unsurprisingly, what really ended up happening was a lot less idyllic. That's because when his friends cut the cord anchoring the lawn chair to his Jeep, he did not lazily float up to 30 feet, but shot up not 100, not 1,000, but 16,000 feet up into the air.
Ooh.
Now, fearful for his life, Walters drifted in the sky in a cold and a frightened state for about 14 hours, being too scared to pop any of the balloons lest his chair be thrown off balance. Yet he eventually got to the point that he felt like he had no choice, and after popping a few of them, he slowly began to descend. Getting his tethers wrapped around a power line and blacking out a Long Beach neighborhood for about 20 minutes in the process. Upon safely descending, he was arrested by members of the LAPD. And rather than express any sort of remorse,
at least he didn't
when
die.
asked Walters why he pulled the stunt as he was being led away in handcuffs, he simply replied, "A man can't just sit around." It goes without saying that the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, was not amused, with Safety Inspector Neil Savoy going as far to say that, quote, "We know that he broke some part of the Federal Aviation Act, and as soon as we decide what part it is, a charge will be filed." As a result of his efforts, the FAA ended up giving Walters a $1,500 fine. Although that's not to say that he didn't derive some benefits out of the endeavor. After all, outside of winning a prize from the Bonehead Club of Dallas and receiving the Darwin at-risk...
Fun fact: the Darwin Award salute the improvement of the human genome by honoring those who accidentally removed themselves from it in a spectacular manner. The Darwin Awards are a tongue-in-cheek honor originated in Usenet newsgroup discussions around 1985. They recognize individuals who have supposedly contributed to the human evolution by selecting themselves out of the gene pool, from dying or becoming sterilized via their own actions. The owner is Wendy Northcutt. Darwin Awards. Vote for the award nominees. The Darwin Awards commemorate the remains of individuals who contribute to the improvement of our gene pool. Yeah, did that say the remains of? Yes, it did. All right, everybody, back to the video.
Survivor Award, he ended up setting the altitude record for gas-filled clustered balloon flight, and was even able to quit his job and instead become a motivational speaker. However, the fame didn't last for long, and he himself admitted that he never made much money from his innovative flight.
Went broke.
In 1999, a man from Buenos Aires, Argentina, won his Darwin Award by
Learning.
falling down to the ground. The story goes that during a heated marital dispute with his wife, a 25-year-old man picked up his 20-year-old wife and threw her out of an 8-story balcony. However, either out of remorse for what he had done or with the intent to finish her off for good, he jumped down after her. Unsurprisingly, he accomplished neither goal, plunging to his demise. However, his wife luckily survived the encounter, instead falling onto some power lines and was rescued soon after. Interestingly enough, Darwin Awards aren't limited to the modern age. That's because King Louis III of France won his award over 1,000 years after his demise. It should be noted that at the time, things were going well for Louis. After all, he had recently conquered new tracts of territory, defeated Viking raiders, and, generally speaking, seemed to have had a lot of potential. However, this all got thrown for a loop when he saw a beautiful lady as he was riding around on horseback. Immediately infatuated, he began to chase her, causing her to run to her father's house for protection. Yet, unfortunately for Louis, he was not exactly paying attention to where he was going and ended up smashing his head against a low-lying door. Fracturing his skull as a result, he succumbed to his injuries soon after.
Dang.
From time to time, Darwin Awards are not just earned by individuals, but by groups of like-minded boneheads. One of our favorites to date was won by 4 Englishmen in February of 2008. The story goes that the 4 were on a holiday ski trip in Sausi d'Urs, Italy, which was a village known for its party atmosphere. As a result, after grabbing a few drinks at the local bar, they decided to go for a late-night adventure. Stealing the protective padding that surrounded the safety barriers at the bottom of the ski run, they then decided to use the padding as a sled to go down the same hill. Ironically, the men ended up hitting the same unpadded metal rails. Unfortunately, this caused one of the men to pass away due to chest and head injuries, while the rest came out of the slippery slide seriously injured.
Wow.
Our last award winner for today was just as reckless.
That's still not as dumb as the bear.
As he was cowardly. The incident occurred on a steep mountain road in Idaho when a driver by the name of Marco was chauffeuring 8 of his friends after a day on the mountain. However, while driving, Marco lost control of his brakes, and rather than inform his friends, he chose to jump out of the car's window right before the car was about to careen over a cliff's edge.
What kind of friend
Luckily,
is that?
another one of the passengers was able to stop the car, but when they went back to find Marco, it turned out that he wasn't so lucky. That's because while none of the car's passengers were hurt, Marco had struck his head on the road's pavement, going on to succumb to his injuries on the scene.
Alright everybody, this is the last of this video. Don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe. See you next time. Bye.